The glass doors of the corporate tower slid open with a soft mechanical hum, letting in a rush of cold morning air as people in expensive suits walked in without breaking their stride. Phones pressed to their ears, coffee cups in hand, voices filled with urgency and importance. No one looked around. No one noticed anything beyond their own world, except him. Marcus Reed stood by the security desk, his uniform perfectly pressed, his posture straight, his eyes alert. He noticed everything, every face, every movement, every detail, and yet, somehow, no one ever seemed to notice him. It had been like this for months. People walked past him as if he was invisible, as if he was part of the building itself, like the walls or the glass doors. Sometimes they didn't even respond when he greeted them. Sometimes they looked at him with a kind of quiet judgment that said more than words ever could, and sometimes they laughed. Not loudly, not directly at him, but just enough for him to know, just enough for him to feel it. That morning started no different. A group of employees walked in together, their laughter echoing slightly in the lobby. One of them, a tall man in a navy suit, glanced at Marcus and smirked. "Man, I don't know how you stand here all day doing nothing," he muttered to his colleague, not even bothering to lower his voice enough. The others chuckled. Marcus heard every word. He always did, but he didn't react. He simply nodded slightly, his expression calm, professional. "Good morning," he said. They ignored him. As always, Marcus had learned a long time ago that reacting only made things worse. People liked them. They expected a reaction. They wanted it. It gave them a reason to justify whatever they already believed. So he stayed quiet, he stayed focused, he did his job. But inside, it wasn't always easy. There were days when the weight of it all pressed down on him, when every look, every comment, every moment of being treated like less than built up into something heavy and hard to carry. But he carried it anyway, because he had a reason, a purpose bigger than their opinions. Around mid-morning, the lobby grew busier. Meetings, deadlines, presentations. The energy in the building shifted as the day picked up speed. Marcus scanned the area as usual, his trained eyes catching small details others would miss. A man lingering too long near the elevators, a woman rushing in, visibly anxious, a delivery left unattended. To most people, these were nothing. To Marcus, they were patterns, signals, things to be aware of, because Marcus wasn't just standing there. He was watching, always watching. Upstairs, in the executive offices, Daniel Whitmore, the CEO of the company, was preparing for one of the biggest meetings of his career. Investors from across the country were joining via video call. Millions of dollars were at stake. His assistant moved quickly around the room, setting everything up. "Everything ready?" Donald asked, adjusting his tie. "Yes, sir," she replied. "Security protocols are in place. Systems are running smoothly." Donald nodded, satisfied. He didn't think much about security beyond that. To him, it was just another department, just another function, something that existed in the background. Back in the lobby, Marcus's attention shifted suddenly. Something felt off. He couldn't explain it immediately, but his instincts, the ones he had learned to trust over years of experience, were telling him to look closer. The man near the elevators. He was still there. Too long. His movements were subtle, but inconsistent. Marcus stepped away from the desk slowly, his expression unchanged. He approached the man calmly. "Sir, can I help you with something?" he asked politely. The man flinched slightly, caught off guard. No, I'm good," he said quickly, avoiding eye contact. Marcus studied him for a second longer than usual. Something wasn't right, but before he could press further, the man walked off quickly toward the exit. Marcus watched him leave, his mind already analyzing the situation. Maybe it was nothing, or maybe it wasn't. Either way, he made a note of it, because that's what he did. He paid attention, even when no one else did. An hour later, everything changed. It started with a faint smell, barely noticeable at first. Then, a flicker in the lights. Upstairs, in the executive office, Daniel frowned as the screen in front of him glitched. "What's going on?" he asked. His assistant looked around, confused. "I'm not sure, sir." Then the alarm went off, loud, sudden, piercing through the entire building. Downstairs, Marcus reacted instantly. His body moved before his mind even caught up. Fire alarm, possible electrical failure, maybe more. People in the lobby froze for a second, then panic spread quickly. Voices rose, confusion took over. Marcus stepped forward, his voice cutting through the chaos. Everyone remained calm. "Please proceed to the nearest exit in an orderly manner." Some listened, many didn't. Smoke began to seep into the hallway upstairs. Daniel coughed, covering his mouth. "We need to get out of here," his assistant said, panic in her voice. But the main exit route was already filling with smoke. The situation was escalating faster than anyone expected. Back in the lobby, Marcus grabbed his radio. "This is Reed. We have a confirmed alarm. Possible fire on upper floors. Initiating evacuation protocol." His voice was steady, controlled. The same man they ignored, the same man they laughed at, was now the one giving orders. As people rushed toward the exits, Marcus made a decision, one that most wouldn't have made. He turned away from the exit, toward the stairs, toward the danger. Upstairs, the smoke was thicker now. Visibility was dropping. Daniel struggled to breathe, his movements slowing. His assistant tried to guide him, but panic was taking over. They were losing direction, losing time. Then, through the smoke, a figure appeared. Marcus, he moved with purpose, his training kicking in fully. "Sir, we need to move now," he said firmly, reaching Daniel. Without waiting for a response, he supported him, guiding him toward the emergency stairwell. The assistant followed, shaken but relieved, and step by step, Marcus led them down. The air was clearer with each floor, but the danger wasn't gone yet. Debris blocked part of the path. Marcus cleared it quickly, pushing through without hesitation. His focus never broke. Not for a second. Finally, they reached the ground floor. Fresh air hit them as they stepped outside. Paramedics rushed forward, taking over immediately. Daniel collapsed onto a stretcher, coughing but alive. Alive because of Marcus. Hours later, the chaos had settled. The fire was contained. The building was damaged but standing. Employees gathered outside, shaken, whispering among themselves, and then the story started to spread. The security guard saved him. That same guy from the lobby. No way. The same people who had ignored him. The same people who had laughed. Now, they were looking at him differently. Daniel, now stable, asked one question as soon as he could speak clearly. "Who saved me?" When they told him, he didn't hesitate. "Bring him to me." Marcus walked into the room quietly, the same calm expression on his face. Daniel looked at him, really looked at him this time. Not his background, not as invisible, but as a man. "You saved my life," Daniel said. Marcus nodded slightly. "I was doing my job, sir." Daniel shook his head. "No, you did more than that." Silence filled the room for a moment. Then Daniel spoke again. "From this day forward, that changes, not just for you, for everyone." And outside, for the first time, people greeted Marcus, not because they had to, but because now they finally saw him. Marcus Reed stood there quietly, his hands clasped behind his back, the same posture he had maintained every single day in that lobby where people once walked past him like he didn't exist. But now, everything in that room had shifted. The energy, the attention, the way eyes stayed on him instead of sliding away. Daniel Whitmore leaned slightly forward on the hospital bed, studying Marcus not as an employee, not as security, but as the man who had carried him out of a life-threatening situation without hesitation. "I meant what I said," Daniel continued, his voice firm despite the strain. "You didn't just do your job. You made a choice. Most people would have run out with everyone else. You ran toward the danger." Marcus took a slow breath. "Sir, I've been trained for situations like that. It wasn't about choice. It was responsibility." Daniel shook his head slightly, a faint smile appearing despite everything. "That's exactly what makes it different. Responsibility isn't something everyone understands the same way." There was a pause, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. The assistant standing in the corner watched the exchange, her expression softening as she realized she was witnessing something bigger than just a thank you. This wasn't just gratitude, it was recognition. Long overdue recognition. "Tell me something," Marcus, Daniel said after a moment. "How long have you been working here?" 8 months, sir." Daniel's eyebrows lifted slightly. 8 months. "And I've never seen you before today." Marcus didn't respond immediately. Not because he didn't have an answer, but because he didn't need to say it out loud. The truth was already in the air. Daniel exhaled slowly, realizing it himself. "That's on me," he admitted quietly. "That says more about this company than it does about you." For the first time, Marcus shifted slightly, his stance relaxing just a bit. "With all due respect, sir, it's not just this company." Daniel looked at him, understanding exactly what he meant. And for once, he didn't try to defend it. He didn't try to explain it away. He just accepted it. Later that day, after being discharged, Daniel insisted on returning to the building, despite protests from everyone around him. He wanted to see things for himself, not from reports, not from summaries, but with his own eyes. When he walked into the lobby again, the atmosphere was completely different from that morning. Conversations slowed, people straightened up, and standing near the entrance, exactly where he always stood, was Marcus, but this time, he wasn't invisible. Daniel walked directly toward him, ignoring everything else. Employees nearby watched, whispering under their breath, unsure of what they were about to witness. Marcus, Daniel said, loud enough for others to hear. Marcus turned slightly. Sir? Daniel didn't lower his voice. He didn't make it private. I want everyone here to understand something clearly, he said, turning to face the room. The man standing here saved my life today, not because he had to, but because he chose to act when it mattered most. The whispers stopped. Complete silence filled the lobby. Daniel continued, and if this company is a place where someone like him can go unnoticed for 8 months, then something is broken, and that change is starting now. People shifted uncomfortably. Some looked down, some avoided eye contact. The same individuals who had once laughed quietly now stood still, unsure of where to look. Daniel turned back to Marcus. Effective immediately. I want you working directly with our corporate safety and operations teams, not just as security, but as someone who helps shape how we operate. Your instincts, your awareness, this company needs that at a higher level. Marcus blinked, just once, processing the words. This wasn't something he had expected. Not because he didn't believe in his abilities, but because he had never been given a reason to expect more. Sir, Daniel raised a hand gently. This isn't a favor. This is a correction. Another silence followed, but this one felt different. It wasn't heavy. It wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like a shift, like something had finally been seen clearly after being ignored for too long. As Daniel walked away, escorted by his team, people in the lobby began to move again, but their movements had changed. Slower, more aware. One by one, a few employees passed by Marcus. This time, they didn't ignore him. Good morning, one of them said quietly. Marcus nodded. Good morning. It was a small moment, but for the first time since he had started working there, it meant something.